Hey yo, LAZ, make sure you go to therealdribble.com and check out that PA Knit collection, you heard? They doing numbers over there. Go cop up. Tell them Z-Man Suicide Polo with the Ski Man sent you. Hey yo, finally that digital download is available. Go to bloodsagas.com, cop up now. Hey yo, LAZ, I'm in Queens. Queensbridge to be exact. Shout out to the whole Queensbridge project. I just left my dudes at the How It Happened podcast. Just did an exclusive interview with them dudes. Make sure you go over there and check that. Hey yo, LAZ, make sure you run over and subscribe to my bros over there at InSource TV. They got a lot of fire exclusive interviews. Yersk. Check they new joint with Mr. Full Moon. It's called Tales of a Killer Priest. Exclusive stories you never heard in your life. Yersk. Leave some comments. Tell them Z-Man Suicide Polo with the Ski Man sent you. Links in the description and in the comment section. Broadcasting live from New York City. It's the hottest channel on these YouTube streets. The best jail stories and hood stories are here. Make sure you subscribe today. LAZ. How did you meet Tut in the first place?
Good question. See, a lot of people don't really know a lot about him. You know, we know his government name is Walter Johnson. And we all grew up in Cypress young together. What I mean is at least the early 70s. And I first met Tut because Tut lived right there next to the it used to be the library and the community center, and they had a big, it's like a iron horse, like a stagecoach, you know. So that's where I first met him, basically going to Cypress Hills Community Center. And back then, you know, we was all into sports. Like I said, the whole environment, like with the project, and especially moving out there to Cypress back then, because it was mostly Caucasian people in the project back then. So we had a cat there named Mr. Steiner. That was a white man. He ran, you know, the community center back then. That's how I learned how to first travel, you know, as far as New York City. Because back then we used to have what you call circus, you know, and we go to Marlboro projects, we go up to Castle Hill, Bronx River, you know, all those things was going on. It was called the Boys Athletic League. So basically back then, you know what I'm saying, we used to do a lot of boxing and all that stuff like that. So that's where we first met, you know, in the community center. And as time went on, you know, he had dudes that was mostly like his OGs, that was my OGs, because back then everybody in the project that was black, you know what I'm saying, we basically knew each other. So there was one cat back then, his government name was Butch, rest in peace, was a terror. You know, his name was Bishme. He was one of the first cats to like kind of put us on the map as far as the jail situation was concerned. So he was real nice with his hands. And then later on, another cat moved over there by his building. You know, his name was Shabue. You know what I'm saying? He was real nice with the ball and the hands and everything like that. So them dudes was kind of like, I want to say, Touch mentor as far as with his hand game. And then on top of that, my man that used to live right there on Sutter side, his name was Born. Born was a real close friend of Touch growing up, you know, and him and Touch, they used to practice the martial hearts a lot together. So, from there and the experiences we had growing up in elementary school, we went to that school right there on the Conduit, PS 214. And, it was racial back then. We had this one white cat. I think he was Italian or something like that. Or he used to dress like that. He had real dark blue eyes named Mr. Richner, And we used to go through a lot of shit with him and everything else.
What you mean?
I mean, like, he just was like, back then, a lot of them Caucasian teachers, they really didn't know how to deal with us. So the ones that was prejudiced, like, my story is crazy because, by the second grade, they stopped sending me to see the regular counselor, or it might have been in the first grade. And I started going to see the psychiatrist named Mr. Rosenthal, and they had called my mom's up there one time, and she came up there to meet with him, Yeah, I was in the first grade, that's right. And that's when that scared straight, shit was kind of a little bit popping off. So my mom was sitting there talking to him, and this dude had the audacity to say, because my mother said she was thinking about taking me out of public school and putting me into Catholic school, St. Fortunatus, that's right over there across the street from Pink Houses, and a block or two from Linden Plaza. So that was, the Catholic school out there then. And he told my moms that he think that she would be wasting her money. You know what I'm saying? Because he didn't even think, more or less, me graduating from out of high school, you know what I'm saying? I might not make it through, elementary school or whatever, And that was like real crazy for somebody to be telling somebody's mother that when a child is just, 6 years old. So we went through a lot of racism. We went through a lot with the older white boys coming, trying to beat us up, them Fonzarelli jacket things, and that was the thing, like I said once again, for me growing up, that was applied to as far as the gang situation, you know what I'm saying, that the white boys, every time they heard that the Tomahawks or something, because mostly it was the Tomahawks out on our end, Brownsville, East New York, embedded in, because like I said, I met Art Parker and them when I was young, when they was living in Pink Houses. So, the Tomahawks was like our savior back then, because when them old white cats used to find out the Tomahawks was coming up there, they would disappear. So, we went through a lot back then. Like I said, the white boys, they would stop the buses along the way. How little kids hang out the bus and screaming and hollering. I remember I told the cat in my building, Jimenez and Cisco, and they was Spanish brothers that lived in there. And I told them, yo, man, when we get stopped in the middle of the block, white boys order them all that. They be coming out their houses. That's, like I said, the zip guns, all that was in effect. But if you got your head hanging out that window, you gonna get served. So Papo ain't listened to me, and he kept, hanging his head out and didn't pull it in fast enough. I remember the white boy hitting him flush in his face with a belt buckle. You know what I'm saying? And he had one of the rings around his eye, like Petey the dog from the Little Rascals. So, that was just our first, like, all along the way of growing up with this whole, like, racism thing that a lot of people don't understand about the North that contribute, to us becoming, like we say, products of our environment because of all those things that we went through growing up in the school system, everything. We had to fight for free lunch, all that type of stuff. So those type of individuals you still had it graded into the school system where, you know, like with Malcolm X, you know, when his teacher told him when he wanted to grow up and be a lawyer, you know, that was impossible. With Tut, you know, as we began to, you know, get older and everything, that's leading up into more or less what we gonna talk about the story, you know, because a lot of cats came, you know, around to see Tut. You know, Tut used to be with a law just this other cat. He had wrote a book a while back when was doing things, you know, speaking about him and Tut's relationship from out of Pink Houses. I think he's dead now, Kasim. But you know, Tut brought around a lot of different characters, and like that one that they hardly ever speak about, you know, with the Kingdom Hall thing.
As y'all went to school further
Right,
down the line, like
right.
when did son start becoming like, you know, into the streets or whatever? Like what was going on in his crib that pushed
Well,
him into the
I,
streets?
I mean, basically, you know, he had the same type of background that we had. You know, most of our mothers was from the South. You know, they was brought up with like a lot of old traditions. You know, my mom used to always tell me manners carry you places that money can't. So at that time, like I said, you know, once he got like more or less like all of us, I say really, you know, I might have started popping a little bit earlier than them, but I'm quite sure that, you know, by the time they was hitting like 11, 12, you know, that's when they started like really getting into their own little scripts and, you know, beginning with their little lives of crime and snatching jewelry. But we wasn't out of elementary school because we used to take the bus, you know, from our house, you know, depending on what side of the project you lived on, you know, A, B, C, E, F, G, you know, and then the other side would be, you know, 8 or whatever, you know, Linden Boulevard, Euclid Avenue, and, you know, the bus would go around and pick us up, take us over there to 214 and back, not unless it was a bus strike, because we was involved with all that, you know, fighting for lunches, free lunches in school, and all the politics that was going on then. So one time, you know, the regular New York City buses went on strike, and they decided to give us, you know, train passes, and that's how all that little train pass thing started. You know, before I got to junior high school or high school, I was already doing that. At elementary school, even though it was just one stop, you get on at Euclid. You could basically walk if you wanted to, but usually we get on at Euclid, get off at Grant Avenue, and then 214 sit right over there on the conduit.
So you said that was just regular white kids that did that, or that was a white gang?
Well, I mean, you know, you could basically say, I guess they might have had little names for themselves, you know, because they was all crews, and then we had over there what you call City Line, like all those places now, you know, they integrated, but back then, you know, it was nothing but Italians and, you know, Jews sprinkled in, you know, Irish, you know, the original Caucasian immigrants in New York. So when we wanted to go to City Line, that's where they had most of the pizza parlors and everything. And you used to get 25 cents. You know, you get 5 or 10 Zeppos. They give you the white bag with the sugar in it. And we knew we was gambling to go over the City Line to get these Zeppos, you know, during lunchtime or whatever. But it was worth the gamble at times. So we take our gamble and go up the City Line. But if you get caught anywhere in between, you know what I'm saying, it's lights out. You know, they gonna do you dirty. You know, and I remember shout out to my home girl. She was wild back then, Liz Porter. You her brother's Horse, boys high football star and all that, but them niggas was real nice with his hands. Horse got killed down there in Virginia by some broad or whatever, as far as I know. Rest in peace to him. And other brother Cooley. But Liz, she bought like them hammers that you use to do the meat tenderizer with.
Yeah, them shits with like the little pyramids
Spikes.
on them. Yeah.
Right. So it was me, her, and my man. His name was Quentin, but he ended up becoming righteous too. Tislam. He was one of the first ones when they passed the law to go upstate and all that. At 16, he was with like that first busload of cats to go up there. But anyway, we had got together with her at lunchtime, and like I told you before on one of my joints, we used to go to TSS, and shoplift, like they had that fake blood and all that, so we could come back, and play jokes on the teachers until they got hit. But anyway, she had the hammer, and it must have been an incident or something that we had went through where we were still like feeling salty about them white boys, and that day, me, her, and my man Quentin, we went out like, on the hunt. And we happened to catch one of the little white boys with one of them little, that's when we was riding them bikes, the banana bikes with the sissy bars. And we caught him, and we gave him the business with that hammer too, man. For real. Yeah.
You said he was one of the y'all recognized him from some shit that he did, or he just was a random dude?
I'm sorry to say, but that was just the way it was. They did a lot of savage shit to us, so at the end of the day, we just, that was just one of our savage, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, so he got the business,
So you said it used to be crazy racial tension at them time. What years is this like?
Man, this is like, I got out there from Bed-Stuy. Like I said, I moved out there in 68. I was in the first grade. I went to pre-kindergarten and a little bit of first grade in Bed-Stuy. And then my mom, when she moved that December out there, you know what I'm saying, I got into school out there, and I started going to school. So I was out there from the first grade on, Yeah, so that's like 68. I went to junior high school, IS 218, which is right across the street from where I lived in the project. That was like 74, 75, and then 75, 76, and then I went on to Franklin K. Lane, Because most of us back then, they tried some little slick shit. That's how all the racial riots and everything was starting, like in New Utrecht, Sheepshead Bay, Madison. They started that little busing jazz going on, like maybe like 73 to like 75 real hard. Because I know by the time I went to Lane in 1976, Lane had went back to being our zone school. But prior to that, they were sending cats to New Utrecht, Madison, Sheepshead Bay, all the spots. You know what I'm saying? We had to go to war with them white boys, getting in and out of school, They even got a book on the Franklin K. Lane racial riots. One of my homies said I was in it, because we had a dude back then, Kenneth Toole and Miss Bangy, and they was all on a mission to kick all the 5%ers they could out of Franklin K. Lane, but they could never kick me out because I had the grades and I played ball. And I remember one time a racial riot that broke out because we had this cat Mel's across the street, a cool joint / store and all that. That's where everybody used to hang out. And one of the riots was getting ready to break out, and this dude, Kenneth Toole, he hated me. But for some reason, he came and got me and gave me the bullhorn. And I'll tell you, say, lads, a lot of this shit I'm saying, niggas will be like, yo, OG is capping. But anybody that was there, they'll tell you anything I say is word is bond. But anyway, he gave me the bullhorn, you know what I'm saying? So I got on the bullhorn and, I calmed it down before it turned into a riot. But I made sure when I went across the stage on graduation, all the other blacks was talking about, they was, not gonna shake this dude's hand and all that when they give you the diploma. But I ain't do it, so it was basically all that racial shit was going on. Only time it didn't go on is my junior high school era, because like I said, my school was right across the street from my house, so I could leave out. I stayed 345 Fountain Avenue, so you had to be in school by 8 o'clock. I could leave out the house 7:55, and go right downstairs and go into the school. And being we talk about that, I'm gonna throw this little part of that in as a bonus right there, being we talk about the junior high school shit, and all this time too, you got gangs going on out there, you got the sex boys, crazy homicides, all that. I did a video with one of the members, the leaders of the 13th division of the crazy homicide, Big they can see that on my channel. But anyway, getting back to the junior high school thing, like I said, I was already out there, so I was already going back and forth Delancey Street every day. Right around then, that's when it really started. But my mom's had bought me, Porterfield. And back then, everything is like it is right now, If you wore something that was supposed to be what it be, it's supposed to be real. So the real Porterfields, when they first started making them, they had the yellow silk lined in the inside, and that real fur on the collar, like you can see some of the older guards wearing in some of my pictures, Big Wise in them. Those are the real joints. Later on, they came out with the fake ones that had like the dog hair and the checkered lining in the inside. But anyway, I had a real one. Lord bless the dead, my man Mo Lonnie Brown, and this other cat named Howie from the middle. My mom bought me the black one because, of course, black go with everything. And that was the first ones that came out. They didn't start coming out with the beige and blue joints until a little later. It was basically, I think, the black ones definitely and the brown ones. But anyway, that day I was bullshitting around. And if you get in there like 10 minutes past 8, they make you leave your coat in the late room, But I'm not thinking, I'm in like the 7th grade or whatever, and I'm thinking like, I'm known, niggas ain't gonna get me for my shit, So I hang my shit up in the late room. So now when the penalty is when it come time to get out of school, you gotta stand in the late line in order to be able to get, your coat. So I'm standing in line, not figuring I should have been first because I got this expensive ass coat. So man, by the time they let me in the joint, it was right next to the gym in 218. Coat, big room, they had us hang our coats up. You know what happened. Nigga beat me for my coat. Left me at the dun-to-dun. And my mom's, when I think them shits was running like $110, 74, $110 for a coat. That's a lot of money,
That was like 500.
Right, I had to hang my shit in the late room.
And somebody just stole it out of there?
Son, you know how Brooklyn go. There's a million and one niggas that starving. You know what I'm saying? Some niggas ain't even got a decent coat. We talking about the 70s, More or less, we put in one of the flyest coats that ever came out back in them times, But, what the fuck they end up giving my moms for that coat? I think they might gave my mother maybe or $55, something like that. They ended up writing off, or it might have been 25, but it was nowhere near what the Kodak costed at that time. But really, basically, it wasn't too much longer after that shit like that ain't really mean nothing to me no more, because I was out in the bricks doing my thing with my little crews and shit like that, so that at least once a month, me and my man Robbie Rice, he used to stay right over there next to Glaze, and see a lot of these dudes, like I said, that's right around the time that a lot of families that their moms and pops was, both had little civil service jobs and stuff like that. I know his pops was a maintenance man for New York City housing. Mr. Rice, everybody knew him over on Sutter. And then his mom, she was like a teacher's aide. A lot of the women later on, when I would say they was teacher aides, they would take offense to it, because, they went on to get their degrees, or, back then, a lot of them, if they had enough time as teacher aides, they could eventually become teachers or whatever, and most of them did. But a lot of them that were teachers aides were regular women that, lived in our project or in our community that, we would relate to. I guess some of the times back then, the teachers' aides, they served as a buffer too with the white teachers, because, they knew how to deal with us, or if you get out of line, a lot of them knew my moms directly, so if I pop off at them, they come straight to the crib and do me. Or some of them, if they was real close, they take me in the back staircase, pop me in my head or whatever, and tell me, yo, when you get back home, I'm telling your mom, you gonna get another ass whipping. So they knew how to deal with us a lot better, right? Back at that time. So I guess they was there also as more or less like a behavioral buffer and everything else. But yeah, that's how it was going down. So from junior high school, the majority of us ended up, that's when they changed lane back to our zone school. So mostly, like I said, that was Cypress, Pink Houses, Linden Plaza, individuals that was on side blocks up to a certain point. And then that the rest of them, before you get to Pennsylvania, they zone school might turn into Thomas Jefferson,
When you started noticing that Tut was getting into street shit, or did y'all start getting into street shit at the same time?
I might just been a little bit, because I'm a year or so ahead of them, but like when we did the interview, me and Glaze, the very first one on this joint, he said like, yo, Shad, you was out there a little bit before us. So, I always looked at them like, kind of like, my little brothers or whatever, but we all in the same age bracket. So I would say we all basically started with the same little street, crimes at the same time. I really wasn't too much with that pocketbook snatching shit. You know what I'm saying? Because whether they was a black woman or a white woman, you know what I'm saying? I just felt like that was like sucker shit, But I ain't gonna say it didn't take place at times. You know what I'm saying? At the beginning of certain shit, and that's why you had to be, you had to watch out, because all the bullshit was involved back then. And I heard individuals say it that was out in the streets. That's why I could tell when individuals tell their stories, when you deal with black knowledge and certain other individuals, and how they describe things, because even though we was from different locations, we was all basically brought up with the same type of ethics. You know what I'm saying? Even though we was doing crimes, like I said, the majority of the crimes or anything that I did, because we was politically aware now of who we was, and the atrocities that they did to us, was mostly taken out on Caucasians. So I really did, like I said, snatching pocketbooks from helpless women. I done been on capers where we done snatched pocketbooks, and I felt so bad with the lady, and she be like, yo, it ain't nothing. And she was right. She said, well, ain't nothing in the pocketbook but an apple in the Bible. And I opened it up, stopped running with the pocketbook, opened it up, and seen that's all it was, and went and gave it back to her. But like I said, with that, it all started again because if a cat caught something and he ran faster than you, you know, and I learned this with Dollar Bill, my man Cook brother, you know, and he get up in the building before you, 9 out of 10, nigga gonna take something out. If it's something real valuable, he gonna take it out of his stash. Or you get there and he was there first. Oh man, it was only 200, but it could have been 600. You know, and you won't know it until 2 or 3 days later if you see him. Because some cats, you know, y'all might have just met up to do capers with each other. That's how we knew each other all from different places. And having individuals like Tottenham, they would bring a lot of these characters that was from other parts that would do robberies. But like I said, I wasn't really with that. But the joint I was with was that shit where we jump up on the big white boy necks or whatever and put him in the L, put him to sleep. You know what I'm saying? And hit him. That's when the little rope chains with the Jesus pieces and all that was coming out. Mm-hmm. You know, so we was having them with that. You know, because a lot of them, they was coming to school thinking that they was safe, you know, because they in they hood and whatever. But you know how that go. Mostly all high schools, you got the little, when you walking up the steps, you know how they knock out the little windows, you know, piece of the pane be knocked out. So we going in transition from class to class. White boy walking by, he got one of them ropes on with that Jesus piece of any of that. You know what I'm saying? Got you.
What,
you know,
snatching it through the window?
Yeah. Yeah, you going up, if you going up, say you going to a class up on the 2nd or 3rd floor, and I'm coming down, maybe going to gym or whatever, you know, that way. Or sometimes, you know, like I said, most of them cat tutting on them after a while, them niggas wasn't really coming to school to go to school. They was coming to school to see, you know, what they could take, you know. So that's how that right there was going down. So that used to start a lot of, you know, racial shit, you know. And of course the music back then, that's when hip hop was first like really coming out. So they was hardcore on that disco. Oh no, we was in the disco era. But I say hip hop because, you know, when they really deal with it last, you know, they get the Bronx, you know, credit, and I'm not taking nothing away from, you know, Cool Herc and everything that was going on in the Bronx, but literally hip-hop was going on in all the boroughs. You know what I'm saying? We had Brooklyn, you know, Grandmaster Flowers, Stevie D, all them type of Sonny Chiba, you know, all them dudes, and especially they don't give no credit to a man out our way called Mr. Ellis. You know, he made what you call the kicking coffin, son. He had a coffin with 2 turntables in it, you know. And then my man Pete Dotson, he made the caboose for him, son. I'm talking about a train with the turntables, the kicking coffin, and he also did some live shit for one of the most well-known groups from out of Brownsville back then called the Dance Masters. You know what I'm saying? They had the speakers, the 456 CeeLo, you know, and they used to play What Soul in the Hole is what, Van Dyke? He used to play music there, but you know, they used to come out to Cypress for Cypress Day back then. That's what Cypress Day. But he made the kicking coffee, he made the Pete Caboose, which was a little train joint with the turntables, and then it was another cat that was from Pine Street. His name was DJ Haswell. His brother played ball with me on Franklin K. Ling basketball team, Ashland. But he made a joint for him. And then, you know, one of the most famous DJs that come out that era, that's my man that we grew up with, is a cat called DJ Watkins. He just did some big shit this summer that passed over there by Star Wreck City, and he bought DMC, he bought all of them out, because you know he was going on massive tours with Def Jam back then, you know. And he used to jam a lot over in Pink Houses. He used to do a lot of park jams on the Caveman side. Matter of fact, his wife that he's with today, give them a shout out, man. They've been together ever since Franklin K. Lane, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, shout out to my man DJ Watkins. That's why I say we just got so much history out there when it's connected to the rap game. The cat from up there on Linden Plaza that just passed away not too long ago. Shout out to my man Moppy. You know, they call him Jimmy Spicer, Super Rhymes, you know. And definitely ODB, he stayed up there about 6 years while he was young. And like I said, when I first went to somebody that introduced me to him at a parliament, he was like, nah, man, I remember the guard here, they used to be bombing motherfuckers. I used to tell the Wu-Tang, yo, y'all want to run into some scientists? Let me take y'all out to the east. Let me take you up to Mount Everest. That's what we call Linden Plaza, because it's the highest foundation, you know, of buildings built up, because they had to build it over, you know, the A-line. So, you know, that's where all the graffiti and everything else started out. And before, I might just move a little fast before we even got to the question. If you was going to ask me the question, because they kind of, you know, overlap each other, being that we talking about a little bit of Linden Plaza history, because I got shit on all them Pink Houses, everything. But we going to stick with this one. I know you heard before about somebody shooting and touched the door with a shotgun. Well, it was a cat. His name was Dino Bell. And Dino Bell is related to Zab Judah. Remember I told you before how Zab's mother Kathy was the earth before, and his uncles was my first man that I hung with up in Linden Plaza?
Yeah.
Well, Dino Bell, niggas from back then know that nigga well. You know what I'm saying? He was about the business, dress up in all different type of disguises and everything, but they was running together. I don't know what had happened between him and Tut, you know, but they had a fallout, and that was the cat, you know what I'm saying, that ended up shooting at his mother's door. And before we go even further and we get to this, I want to say, man, on some real shit, man, they need to free my man King Tut. For real. They need to free that brother. That brother they ain't got him in there for no bodies, none of that shit. And like I told you, he's the first dude, right, that changed the whole game when it comes to this Fed shit. 1994, right? After he beat the shit with the police and all that, attempt murder on them in the barbershop and everything else like that, when they came to pick him up for another robbery or whatever that looked like he was going to be, they basically wanted him to somehow give them information that would incriminate. This is my personal opinion. I can't say it's facts, you understand, but putting, you know, common sense of things together, all right? And him being well-known stick-up kid, this is how the whole A-Team and the Tupac, them, you know, them fools from New York, all the A-Team shot us, you know, and all that overlap into each other. And what I mean by that is that Tut was the first one that in 1994, when they convicted him, they used it all of his state convictions to enhance him on a federal level. Before that, it wasn't going down like that. You know what I'm saying? The feds was the feds, and the state was the state. And what I mean by that is because once they seen it work with him, what did they do after that? They went on a rampage with the drug shit. You know, and every started getting locked up, and then all of a sudden the time in the feds changed because the feds used to be for white collar crimes. Like my uncle, he did a bank robbery in 1969 and was classified as the mastermind, right? And they gave him 21 years. But he only did 7.5 years because back then on the feds, you only did 1/3 of your time, you know? So they enhanced his time, and being that he didn't cooperate like they thought he should have with the whole shooting of Tupac and Puffy and everything, you know what I'm saying? That's when they hit the man with life without parole. How does he get life without parole? Yeah, he was a notorious stick-up kid, but he ain't have a bunch of bodies under his belt. I don't agree with, statements that was made out there before, people that he run with that said, for instance, I'm gonna use this little scenario, that one time they had a beef in the project and they had guns on them, and it was with some other OGs in the project that normally took advantage of a nigga growing up. That's why the gun game changed everything, because it became an equalizer for bullies too. So, that particular night, the other person said that they shot at the OGs more or less to kill them, but Tut just shot up in the air. If it was me, and I could say that from my own experience growing up, you know what I'm saying, and letting the OGs know, like, it's my turn now, you're not going to, just deal with me any old way, because I got one of these things on me. I got this equalizer, okay? But as far as me going to the point of wanting to have to lay one of them down just because, you know what I'm saying, we in a situation now where a nigga can't just do what he want to do with me. Nah, I would have probably did the same thing that Tut did, which was shoot up in the air, right? But what I'm saying is, Laz, let's keep this shit official, right? How can you think an individual can run around Brooklyn as a well-known stick-up kid? Now, when you're a stick-up kid, that means that anybody that's shining, anybody that look good, most of the time ain't off limits. You willing to get at anybody. You understand? And he had that type of reputation. So how could he have that type of reputation without being willing to kill? Because if you a real robber, and I'm going to just keep it real, the way we was taught, the bigger the robbery, the more deadly it is. Because if I'm going to take some real bread from somebody, that's already calculated, because most of the time individuals is going to protect what they got, or they made from the same cloth that you made from. You know what I'm saying? So it got to be a life or death thing when you going in there to do something. Now, whether you are equipped or you got the science of robbing where you get, but everything is about the element of surprise. Ain't got nothing to do with the size of a nigga's gun. You can have a fucking bazooka, and I got a knife. If I get up on you first and take that bazooka from you with my knife, I'm in charge now. So that's how that game right there was played. So, I would never put it from that aspect. What I would put it from that aspect is that Tut has always been a thinker. You know what I'm saying? And most of the guys that go to the top of the food chain is not because, they savages, because you got to know when to be a savage. Like, every now and then you're going to be tested. So you got to do what you got to do. Okay? So, like I said, when you say as far as timing about the crimes, and all the dudes from Brooklyn, I hear Black Gold, my man Craig that used to be on this Triple Beam, all them little dudes that grew up or whatever, everything, has been passed on. It ain't nothing new. 1978, we was going up to the Taste the Honey show in Manhattan, going wild. That's just how that thing was. So the robberies back then, when they turned into bombers, back then it was quarterfields. It was sheepskins. It was leather bombers, but it was always something gazelles. I remember it was a time when niggas was getting shot for plumage and all that. So that was always a part of the game as far as the way we was taught prior to the drug game coming in. Manhattan, they always had older cats to bring them along, to boost in the numbers. But most of us in Brooklyn, that's all we was never taught. If you want something, go out there and take it. Get a chance, just look it up and see when they changed the juvenile law. But I think it was in 78, because I was 16 in 78, and that's when they started telling us 16 on up, y'all could be tried as an adult for any crimes y'all do. But that shit played a major portion in niggas really doing crimes, because, that shit was like a turnstile, And that's involving them Diner boys, them niggas from out the East, them the niggas that changed the whole game. My man Polite, Hinterbuck, and all them niggas right there from off of Shepherd and Berman. They was called the Diner Boys. Son, you don't know about the Diner Boy shit? Them the niggas that went out to fucking Long Island and they was holding up restaurants, making white motherfuckers have. That's why they got charged like that, because them niggas was high off of dust and all that shit. First they was hitting the jury. They hit the juries on 47th Street. They was just on a wild spree. But the most thing that they got everything for was when they went out to Long Island and they motherfucking started robbing them diners, making them white people have sex with each other and all that shit. Yeah, that shit was crazy. That shit was crazy. I think I got the article, but if you look it up, you know what I'm saying? The Long Island Diner Boys, my man Polite and all of them. Them the niggas that got New York City to change from that whole turnstile system. Because them niggas had like 14 violent felonies. Hinterbuck had like 14 violent felonies. And this nigga hadn't did no more than like 45 days on the alley. Yeah. They changed the game as far as the court system. That's why it was so crazy back then, because it was so much shit that was going on. Niggas was getting cut back loose, burners, robberies, or, you read this nigga's whole jacket like in an 8-month time, but it was petty shit, but it was violent, carjackings, niggas going up in niggas' cribs, all type of shit. Yeah, they changed the game. The fucking Diner Boys.
The top 10 highest crime areas in Pennsylvania. This reel is sponsored by PA Knit at therealdribble.com. Number 10, Johnstown. That name is close to my last name, so I know it's real out there. Number 9, Reading, Pennsylvania. Get caught slipping in the wrong part, you'll be Reading. Number 8, Pottstown. Shout out to Pottersfield. That sound real close to my rap group. You heard? Number 7, Philadelphia. Yeah, y'all all wanted this to be number 1 and thought it would be number 1. But we talking about all crime here, not just gang banging and shooting. You heard? Number 6, Ambridge. You heard? Don't be playing around in these little PA towns with that Commonwealth law. They'll roof you. Number 5, Yaden. Let me find out it's a reason they call it Yaden. Number 4, McKees Port. You could Google all this information yourself. The internet is free, baby. Number 3, Chester. Check out my YouTube channel if you want to see some Pennsylvania true crime and jail stories. Number 2, Darby, Pennsylvania. And number one on the list, McKee's Rocks. They call it the Rocks, you heard? I'm schooling y'all today about this PA business. That's a whole fact. And make sure y'all go to therealdribble.com and check out that PA knit. Hey yo, this book is on fire out there. Go to bloodsagas.com and get your digital download finally available.